Hello, I've been asked today to talk about what an employer, a good employer, perhaps is the right start there, a good employer does in terms of supporting employees that are caring and having to deal with work at the same time. There are numerous options available for organisations to consider that support anybody that's in a caring situation. So I just wanted to run through some of the good practices and some of the legal elements that an employer should consider when an employee is facing caring needs or pressures which obviously are impacting them on the work front. Alternatively, also for new and existing employees, so that it makes sure that we can cover and support and attract the right people to an organisation. So one of the first things that is important is having a clear definition of what it means to be a carer. As an employer, you need to be very, very clear in a policy or in terms of in a caring policy directly that actually specifies what you class and clarify as a carer, and in terms of what you will also do to maintain and respect that relationship. It's also important that that's a framework and a guidance that can be set for all employees, because sometimes people can see caring in different capacities, and ultimately there are different policies that will cover certain other elements of care, may it be emergency childcare, etc., when perhaps we might be talking about someone who's actually dependent on you in a different level in terms of on a day-to-day basis. You could also look at increasing or having a look at provision of some form of carers leave, special leave, arrangements that you have with your employee that can allow them to bend and flex their working time to their needs, or as in terms of the person they're caring for. This is sometimes very difficult for an employer to understand or to process, because it may clash with employees that maybe are not carers. But it's important to bear this in mind, that if you are a carer, the pressures on you to balance work and life can be very significant. Since the pandemic, many employers have opted to look at hybrid working as a way of obviously attracting talent, but also in terms of utilising the tools and resources that we have in our disposal, and understanding that work can still be done and actually can be done very, very well. This is also an option that can support people in a caring scenario. However, not all jobs can be done in home-based. So having that flexibility and creating that ability for leave for an employee to take is really crucial, and makes them feel included and inclusive of their needs. The other piece that you can consider is looking at flexible working. Flexible working is an entitlement all employees in the United Kingdom have after 26 weeks of working. Now, this is something that is continuously lobbied, that is looking to see if we can actually apply that from day one. But currently it is after 26 weeks. Now, this is something very important to bear in mind as an employer, because actually, if you are a carer, having flexible working from day one could be really significant and really important. And blending hybrid working and flexible working together can really give you that attraction to new employees, and to maintain and keep your existing employees, so that it allows them to work their lives around their work, but obviously also gives the benefit of feeling part of an organisation. Even if they're working at 9-10 o'clock at night, they are still contributing, and that's really valuable when people go through difficult periods in their lives. There are other areas of support that you could possibly look to give as well for people that are caring, because it's not just the actual physical caring, it's the emotional needs and drains that will happen to that individual. So it could be that you have a good access to wellbeing sessions or other external sources of support, whether it be occupational health or whether it be some employee assistance program. It's important to signpost these elements to your employees, and especially those that are caring, because again, it can be very lonely, and it's very important that those employees have access to support when they need it. These are just other areas of where an employer can show and demonstrate that they are acknowledging and welcoming the fact that someone may have a situation where they're caring, but it doesn't mean that they can't contribute to the workforce. And this is important for retention. And in terms of the current labour market, that's something that's very, very important. So when you look at what an employer can do across the board, within elements of current regulation and expectations. Paying leave for carers is an organisation decision, not something that all organisations can afford, but it's a very, very powerful and useful lever if you can pull that one for your organisation. It's also important to highlight the awareness of caring in your organisation. Perhaps some dedicated area within either a handbook or in terms of leaflets or whatever it might be that you feel is best to advertise that you do support and recognise carers. That can be just as important as having a policy sort of filed away somewhere. In fact, it's probably more important. So in terms of looking at elements that are really important is looking at the flexible working options that you can deliver. Those things are really key. It's also understanding that there are some legal requirements as well that you need to be mindful of when you have these policies. For elements of, if you like, in terms of discrimination, if someone is caring and you are treating them slightly less favourably, shall we say, as an employer because of that, they are entitled and protected by the law, the employment law, by associated characteristics. So the fact that they are caring for somebody can mean and indicate that they have some form of legal claim against an employer if they are treating them less favourably. So it's something to be mindful of. I think if anyone's listening to this, they're probably already thinking along the lines that they don't want to be in that position or that they're not that thought-process. But there are different nuances to care as well that are important as an employer to bear in mind. So I think in the round, the biggest thing that we as an employer do ourselves is to make sure we acknowledge and listen to people's needs and bend and flex where we can to meet those needs. And I think that goes a long way to making people feel included as part of an organisation. And one of the other sort of significant points I think as well is that if a care situation occurs that's probably going to be in a situation where you can't allow people to have hybrid working because it just doesn't fit, is to consider potentially a career break, which is effectively a break in employment. But it could be the timely thing for that employee to have a few months away from work to adjust, to change, to get things set up in place without the pressure of feeling that they've got to kind of balance the job as well. This is usually unpaid time away and may not be always an option for employees. But again, it's something to consider if you need to give different options to maintain your talent base. So talking about it, having it in your policies, having it as part of your well-being, and having access to caring support materials is really, really key. So I think it's about culture. It's about driving a supportive culture. And if you can get those things right, then as an employer, your attraction and your benefit to those employees will be huge. And it will add inevitably the right value to your organisation and will create the right culture. Thank you.